Hello everyone. You may be wondering that I haven't given any title to this talk. And this isn't a lecture. This is an interpersonal communication of mine with myself. Why do we? A- And if you, by coincidence, if you are watching this video, let me share with you one idea that if you are just thinking, if you are just brooding, if you are just contemplating on any particular thought that you have to achieve in your life, that is that such kind of moment never come unless and until you implement on it. Most of the times we have just the ideas and we think that we will do these things on these days, have many of the planning, but mostly we plan and we fail to implement, or we sometimes think that we will do it on the later point of time. But is it good thing to do that? Even if you have a very engaged schedule, but despite the fact of that, if one is able to give the time to things which he has to achieve in his life, then certainly that mm, there is no power in the world that can stop that person from achieving his goal. But what happened in the meantimes, we do not give time to ourselves. We do not give time to our study. We do not give time to the things where we should invest our time. Where do we give the time? Most of the time are stolen by somebody where it is not intended. Suppose if you are in social media, your time is valuable. Despite the fact of that, in spite the fact of that, it is very much valuable. Automatically, you drifting on and drifting on the different ish, different topics, and different. That was not necessary. Either it is a trivial or it is not important. These things goes and happen again and again. It has become the commonplace. See, I thought that once I read about the formalism more than a decade or 1 decade and a half, 15 years ago, the knowledge which I possessed on that particular topic is never enhanced anymore, and even the knowledge has decreased. That when I see that whether the reading, if you are abandoning the reading, if you are doing that things willingly, is it is it the good symbol? Of course you will say that it is not a good symbol, but what is good symbols and what are the bad symbols? Symbolism, there are symbolism in life which most of the times makes us, most of the time make us look retrospectively. See, most of the theories are dealing with practices. The theories are not all about literature. Most of theories are about language. What kind of language we should use If I say most of the theories are about language, how would I able to elaborate or support my argument? How with evidences will I able to say that all theories are about language? See the structuralism. See the post structure. See reader response theory. Oh, see the new historicism. If we exclude formalism, structuralism, deconstructions, then other theories are not about language in strict sense. Maybe there may be some other theories. Now scratch your head and try to try to recall, try to find out whatever I'm saying, is it true? Maybe it may be true or it may not be true. It has a common place of literary study, that study of literature is study of language. It prior to the formalist movement of early 20th century Russian formalism and American new criticism. The study of literature was concerned with everything about literature except language. Study of literature was concerned with everything about literature except language. This was thought. Russian formalism, American criticism. This is one of the formalist movement, and movement is not ordinary. There, movement meaning movement. That is what we call in our language chalwa. From the historical context of literary works to the biography of its author, how literary language work was less important than what the literary work was about. How literary language work was less important than what its literary work was about. Two movements in the early 20th century thought helped move literary study away from this orientation. The first movement was the attempt to the part of philosophers of science like Edmund Herschel to isolate objects of knowledge of their unmixed purity. Russian formalists, a group of young scholars, and they are no more young. Viktor Solorsky, Roman Jakobson, Boris Timorsky, Boris Shumway, who wrote in the teens and 20s, were influenced by this approach. For them, literature would not be considered would be considered not as a window on the world, but as a something with a specific literary characteristics that made it literature as opposed to philosophy, sociology. Literature is not a window for looking at sociological themes or philosophical ideas and biographical informations. Rather, it is a mural or wall painting, something with the palpability of its own, which arrests the eye and merits study. Manipulations of representation devices may create a semblance of reality and allow one to have the impression of gazing through glass. But it is devices alone that produce the impressions that they alone are that makes the literature literary. These are the questions that we must ask to ourselves. Okay, okay. We will study the deconstruction. Around 1967, in Paris, structuralism, which has dominated French intellectual life for much of the 1960s and was displaced by the new intellectual movement. The new thinking in philosophy, sociology, the literature that began in the emergence around 1967. The work of French thinkers like Jacques Derrida, Julie Kristeva, Gilles Deleuze, Louis Gregory, Henri Sixous, Jean-Francois Lyotard, and Jean Baudrillard is usually referred to as a post-structuralism because it departed so radically from the core assumption of structuralism. In 1979, the Lyotard wrote a book called The Postmodern Conditions and describes the contemporary era as one in which the old grand narratives of the form the humanism to Marxism and had lost their validity with the prevalence and proliferations of macro stories. Lyotard borrows the term postmodernism from US culture, where it had been used to describe the self reflexive style of writing, and broke with the standard literary conventions. Almost immediately, postmodernism began to be applied to both the contemporary and to the post-structuralism. Another term widely associated with the post-structuralism is the deconstruction. Deconstructions is the name of a method of critique developed by Jacques Derrida, a philosopher whose writings are central to the emergence of post-structuralism. In the 1967s, he published three books that effectively put an end to the structuralism and launched a new era in the French intellectual life. The book were writings and difference of grammatology and speech and phenomena. The first was a collection of essays on philosophy, literature. The second, a long critical readings of Levi Strauss, Sassou, Rousseau, and the third, deconstruction, logical investigations of Edmund Herschel. What did Derrida do that was so revolutionary? He began with the concept of difference that he found in the work of Friedrich Nietzsche, Martin Heidegger, and Ferdinand de Saussure. He recalled for him the work of the Greek philosopher who stood outside the dominant Greek traditions of Aristotle and Plato. For Aristotle, knowledge consists of the analysis of objects in terms of their essence. Plato invented the metaphysical notions of an ideal realms of ideas that transcended or existed outside the apart from the physical reality. The so-called pre-Socratic philosopher, on the other hand, were interested in the process process of space and time that woes together all material objects in the sum spokes or confluence of being. They emphasize the change were the stasis and the blending together of things were their discrete discreteness or the separable identities. Derrida brought these related strands of the thoughts together. He began by focusing on the first concept of diacritical nature. What is this diacritical nature of linguistic sign? Accordingly to which the identity of the sign is constituted the difference of the sign. That was the case. Uh, Accordingly to Derrida, there had not more primordial process of differentiation at works that affected the everything that having to do with the language, thought, and reality, his name, and this more primordial process of the difference by which he meant to simultaneous process of deferment in the time and difference in space. One present moment assume past present moment as well as a future present moment to be present at present moment presupposes a difference from other present. Similarly, the presence of an object of conscious perceptions of a thought in mind is shaped by a difference from the other objects of thoughts. This simultaneous moment of temporal deferment and spatial difference, both outgoing process that constitute being, and that Derrida means by difference. Ideas and things are like science in language. These ideas challenge the central assumptions of metaphysics. On truth lying in the extramoral sense, we will have a all the time we will have the discussion on the theories, on the different theories. And remember, friend, I'm not calling that. It is only the notification that which you will get. That notification should be something like this. That is, let me find out. Skepticism is something that is the